fellow travelers. Mark here with the Wolters World podcast, our very first podcast with myself and my buddy Shebs the Wanderer. Shebs, say hi, my friend.
Great to be here with you. It's amazing to do the very first podcast. Wolters World. We've known each other for a few years and we've kept that friendship going. You even came to my hometown and had those. Do you remember fish fingers sandwiches that I fed you?
It's into an English classic, a fish finger sandwich. I thought it was just,
And that was your first time, wasn't it?
I've had fish fingers before because, I was a kid at one time, but I never took the next step to make it a fish finger sandwich, to make it something truly authentically English.
People might remember me actually because you interviewed me as well for your channel.
And you might see him pop up like in the Liverpool or Chester videos in the background. B-roll wandering around sometimes. We're going to live and learn at this podcast because it's the first one for me. I mean, I've been on hundreds of these things for other people, but it's the first time we're actually having a Wolters World podcast. And I want to thank Shebs for that, because Shebs is actually one that's like, Mark, I mean, you say it.
Yeah, you're right. Because I reached out to you thinking, I was watching you, because I've been following your stuff for years now, and watch your stuff thinking, this is all so good, so good. You're traveling constantly, you're giving people messages on how to travel, what not to do, things like that. I'm thinking, why don't you not have your own podcast? It doesn't make any sense to me that you've been on hundreds, literally hundreds, telling the audience of other platforms, but why don't you not have your own platform and grow it? And the idea of it was, I came to you and said, hey, listen, why not you've got community already, but we can build a community within the podcast world, and people can comment, get involved. We've got so many different ideas that it can grow into a family. I always say a community, family community. So, and you're like, yeah, I'm in, let's go for it. Something new for you to do as well.
I know, like when we first thought about it, I remember Jocelyn and I bought we got the microphones, we got the noise canceling, padding for the room, not like the squares, you put up, we got all the stuff for it. And we had announced that we were going to start a podcast, and literally COVID hit the next week. And I'm like, and then nobody was traveling. So it kind of went to the side. And there were so many podcasts that came out of that. We were just interviewing with people we'll just go back to traveling and do that. So we kept doing it. And then when I was, we're trying to think of other ways to help people travel better. And, the videos, we get a chance to, talk, but it's me here's 5 love and hates, here's the do's, here's the don'ts. And you don't get to have that back and forth discussion kind of thing. So we don't get to go as in depth as we can, in a podcast.
Yeah.
So when I saw, I've seen so many new influencers out there, travel influencers, and all the AI stuff that's out there, they're giving a lot of bad advice. So I'm like, we got to put some more good advice, some more positive, healthy, good traveler advice. Because, they talk about over tourism and upset locals about tourists. And I don't think they're mad about good tourists. They're mad about bad tourism. And so if we can help people, I was like, all right, this gives another way to kind of get out and do these things. And so that's where this kind of when you came to me, it was kind of like a perfect storm, everything met together. It's you know what, Shebs and I working together, we always have a good time. For those who know, like you said, we've known each other for a few years. We still chat all the time. We'll WhatsApp each other randomly and say, hey, what you up to, man?
Yeah.
If you don't know, Shebs is an award-winning presenter, and things. So it was really cool to see him winning awards. I remember telling him 3 years ago, I'm like, you're going to be big. You are going to win awards.
Yes, you're right. I managed to win my first award as well, and it was a huge accolade to have within travel. Well, within travel media, it's huge. It was stature-wise. It's helped me grow, got me more recognition. People are reaching out, which is fantastic. Very first video that you did, and it was almost like you did it in the 1900s or whatever, because the camera quality. Anyone obviously. All the listeners, if
you're listening on the podcast, in my hand right now, I have a Fujifilm underwater camera. And I used to have a bunch of Nikon Coolpix, and I would literally put a Nikon Coolpix on a rock. I'm like, oh, that rock looks stable. And I would just shove it in the rock or on the rock or whatever. And then I would sit there and I either squat down or you'll notice in the old videos, I'm always in some weird position. And it's literally because that was a place where I found a flat surface to put the camera, and I would put it there. Because you couldn't film with your, there wasn't even iPhones back then, it was with your Siemens phone. No, that's not going to work.
Watching your video, actually, because I just want to ask you this and just sort of give an idea of people what it was like. compared to now where it's so much more easier because you just film on your phone. But I remember doing something very similar where you'd hold, or I'd have like a tripod and maybe just film your stuff. But there was no platform really at the time. I remember YouTube had just come out in 2005. Not There wasn't many creators. That wasn't a thing. Not many people were uploading. But you were one of the very first, because when looking at your old videos, and some of them classic, especially your hair. You had amazing hair as well. It was
Yes,
amazing.
yes, I did have amazing.
Actually, the question is, did you think you'd be carry on doing this over the last 17 years? And when you look at what you've done to looking what you're doing now,
That's what people don't understand. It's like now, like I talk to schools around the country. I'll do Zoom calls with schools. Hey, if you're listening, you got a school who'd like me to come talk, reach out to me. I always love to come and talk to schools or Zoom into schools. But like now I go talk to kids, and it used to be like, oh, talk about the destinations. Now kids like, oh, can we talk about like careers in YouTube? Because there's so many kids they want to do that. And so, but even 10 years ago, even 5 years ago, people were thinking, oh, it's a career of doing the social media stuff. I mean, it took, I mean, I would say like until we had our like gold play button, people were like, so when are you going to get that real job? I'm like, well, actually I have a day job and this is a side
yeah,
thing, but it's amazing how it's changed, because when I first started doing this, it was literally like the equipment you have now, from the ring lights to like the people having the microphones, all this stuff, that just didn't exist. If you wanted like quality lighting and stuff, it was thousands of dollars. So I help a lot of people start out their channels. I'm like, hey, they're like, well, what camera should I get? I'm like, what phone do you have? You got like a iPhone or an Android from the last 5 years? You'll be okay.
yeah,
And,
yeah,
and they're like, really? I'm like, yeah, because that's such a good camera on there now with the audio, you'll be okay. And you can go and explore and you can see these things. But man, I remember when I was first doing these things, like people would look at me and they're like, what's this guy doing? Like I still remember like the cops would come to see me a couple of times. Like there's 3 times the cops have come up and chatted with me about filming, and twice was in my grandma's town. Like this is like small town USA, and I put my phone or my camera on top of the front of my car. You're like, this is like this is where we were. And I'm like on the square. And it's my grandma's town, Carlinville, Illinois, small town, part of Route 66, celebrating 100 years in 2026, by the way. And I'm like there, and this is one of the stops of Route 66. And I'm filming, and all of a sudden, like old school police officer, cop, like pulls up and walks up. And I'm like, and I know he's going to come talk, but I'm like, at that time, I didn't know how to edit, really.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
I'm like, I got to get this video done and then stop. And then I'll talk to the police officer. So he comes up and he's like chatting with, he's like, hey, how you doing? I'm like, hey, officer's like, oh, yeah, I'm the sheriff. I'm like, hey, how are you, sheriff? And so we're chatting for a bit. He's like, yeah, I gotta talk about a crazy man talking to himself on the square. I'm like, yeah, that's me. And like, I have to fill out a whole report. I'm like, yeah, here's my channel if you want to check it out. And then
Yeah.
he's like, YouTube? Oh, it's like, well, when I saw what you're doing, I saw your camera, I figured that kind of something like this was going on. So he was very nice. And then later on, I was at my aunt's house. This is like 2 years later, same guy came by again. He just shakes his head. He's like, hey. So we had a nice little chat there. The other time was on Tiananmen Square. That wasn't as fun. But
Funny because you tell that story, and I remember when I went out on the streets. So this is going back in the noughties, as you call them, and similar thing. I remember putting a camera out and then talking. People walking by thinking, "What's he doing?" But it's funny to think that when you were doing it, no one else was really doing it. So I'm not saying we were the pioneers of this. What I admired about you immediately was the fact that, and I'd ask you this question actually, what got you to, what gave you the idea really? Was it just something that you were just interested in? Was it just something that you did accidentally? Because that's something that the thought process, the creative process of doing that is not. I'm sure I'm sure people listening thinking, how did you come about that?
there's a few things. Like I've traveled a lot in my life. I lived abroad. Like I studied abroad twice in high school, twice in college, my master's abroad, my PhD abroad. Like I lived all around the world, and I always had all the guidebooks, the Lonely Planets and all these. Like I love those. I would read them. Like I wouldn't just like use them for a trip, but I would literally read them. Like, and that's one thing that's sad about Lonely Planet. They don't have they used to have a really great history section, because I'll be honest with you, you read the history of a country, you start to understand a lot more of the culture and the people kind of stuff. But anyway, so I would like love all these things. And when I remember I went to Italy, and I got like, it was like the AA, the Automobile Association, but the Italian version, they had a Veneto book. And I get this Veneto book, And I traveled a lot, and I'd actually already started making videos like that. I guess this is more like why we started doing the really honest travel stuff. But I got this guidebook, and the guidebook was like so super positive, but like over the top. And I was reading this, and I got it at the airport, thinking, "Oh, I'll just go see what the Italian says to go do, and I'll do that." And I remember there's this one town sounded fantastic. Talked to my friends in Italy that were from that region. Like, oh, we've never gone there. It sounds great. And I go, and now looking back, I know exactly what happened. But looking like reading, I was like, the Palazzo was closed, the museum didn't have anything there, and the European market was only open on Saturdays. It's a parking lot during the week, and none of that was in there. Like now, I realize it was written because it was it was the Automobile Association. There, it's always just only positive over the top stuff. But I started seeing all the blogs and stuff that were out there that people were like, obviously they got paid to say something good about these places. Like now I look at it like, oh, they got sponsored to go there and they were told to just say nice things. Oh, I got it. But I kept thinking like, this is so unfair. Like I know in Europe, a lot of people get, you get a lot of vacation times. In the US,
Yeah.
like there's people, I mean, people travel way more now. I mean, even when I started this 17, 8 years ago, travel is completely different. And that's,
Oh, 100%.
we'll have a podcast in the future about how travel is different since then. But I mean, at that time, people would go to Europe from the US once. It was a once in a lifetime experience, you know?
Yeah.
And like my aunt, she went to Europe. She's 85 years old. She went to Europe once in her life. I was blessed enough to take her and my uncle there back in in 2000, you know? And for her, if she would have got this guidebook, she would have chose all the wrong destinations. This town that was there, like she probably would have thought she needed to spend 3 days there. You don't need 3 hours. And I'm like, man, they get 10 days in Europe and 3 days in this town because of this guidebook. That's 30% of their once in a life vacation that's ruined because someone took money or was overly flowery about a destination. I'm like, that's not fair. Like I see my aunt to this day and thinking how much it would hurt me if someone's aunt who never got to go to Europe fell for this kind of stuff. And that was the moment I was like, we were gonna make honest travel videos, the good and the bad. It's been tough because in some respects, sponsors don't want to work with people that want to tell honesty. They just want a commercial. So that's been one thing, but that was what really got us to do like the like honest stuff out there. Like that was a really big thing. But like the videos itself and the filming, I remember I was living in Portugal and I was making videos for my wife. Well, she was my fiance at the time, and she was going to move into Portugal. And I'm like, well, I got to get her ready to go. And so I was making like learn Portuguese videos, but like today's vocabulary is the grocery store. And then I'd go to the grocery store by our place where we were going to live. And then she would see that. So it was like trying to help her. And then I was also making videos for my students because I was doing my PhD in Portugal and I was teaching there. And I know, I mean, we had to teach in English, but I knew not all my students were like super great at English. So I made like for the exams, I'm like, hey, here's 20 topics you need to know for the exams. I would make a video on those so they could watch it. And YouTube was cool because you could slow it down at a different speed. Mm-hmm. So I would have these Spanish students that were like, they were exchange students in Portugal taking classes in English. And like, oh, I drove home for the weekend and I just listened to your videos the way there and back. I'm fully ready for the exam. And I'm like, oh, thank God. And so it was basically, I was making these videos just to help people, right? And it was funny because like we started doing, when we put out our first Love and Hates video, that's when things changed. Because I was making like you were saying, like learn German. I was thinking learning German, learn Italian, learn Spanish, like all kinds of stuff for fun. And then it was like we made the Love and Hates one, and people were like, "Yo, thank you for telling the stuff we need to know." And I always go back to like tour. I would see tourists get so mad in Portugal. I mean, I lived there for 5 years in my PhD in Portugal, and I would see tourists get literally yelling at the staff because they got charged for the bread and butter and stuff, and they didn't know. And I'm like, but if you knew those little things like that, people let ruin their vacations, even though they had a great time. If I can help people not like get over that little hump, they're going to enjoy travel better. They're going to be better travelers. And so that kind of started it. And then over the years, it's just kind of like, I want to help more and more people. And what's crazy is like during COVID, it's funny. Like I will see, so where I teach now, I will have students at that university will come and say hi to me on the big quad, like the park and at the university. And they'll come and say, hi, like, what are you doing here? I'm like, oh, I actually work. Like, oh, I watch your videos all the time. My geography teacher, my history teacher, my Spanish teacher, my German teacher, they would use our videos in class because I always made it positive, wholesome, family-friendly kind of stuff so they could show it in schools.
Celebrity status.
Like 3 or 4 year like mini generation thing. It's like, oh yeah, Wolters World. Yeah, I loved you in junior high, So it was cool that we got to help a lot of people that way. And then over the years, it's just kind of making more and more content. And recently with all the AI stuff out there and all the influencers out there that are giving bad like bad advice. Like I said, it's one of the reasons I was like, I want to get good advice out there, but we need to have good, honest advice from a real traveler, not an AI bot or not someone that just is
Well,
giving bad advice.
because you've traveled, you've gone out there, you've experienced it yourself, and you've been there, you've done that, and I think that's what resonates with a lot of the people listening and people because you got to have something that you can trust into. The reason why your audience is built over, thank you for everyone subscribing, over a million is because of the fact that you've built that trust. And we don't know what we're watching today, and we don't know what is true because sometimes I see some of these AI videos. I'm thinking, is this real? Is this not real? Authenticity of what we see and the stuff that you've done over the years, and it's changed over this. As you said, when you maybe got like a light bulb moment when you think, actually, we're doing this thing where the do's and don'ts, and it picked up, and you thought, wow, actually, people are because I've had people tell me that they've seen your stuff because when you came to Liverpool, actually. I had a friend reach out to me and say, I just watched something that you were in because they saw your stuff pop up on their algorithms and whatnot and stuff. So, but also the fact that some of your students or people in your university came up to you and said, I've been watching your stuff since you were
I love that. Like, I've been watching since I was a little kid, and they're like 20, and I'm like, oh.
celebrity state. Well, how does that make you feel actually? Because
It feels I want to make you feel old when they're like when I was a kid, when they're like 22 or something like that. But no, it feels good. It's like I know that I had a positive impression on them because they remembered, And I mean, we're not flashy, we're not crazy, we're not doing silly stuff. It's like they were watching that because they were going to go someplace. Like I helped them have a better time someplace. Like I would get one usually towards the end of the school year, I'll get a lot of like students that will come see me in my office hours for my where I teach. Some are my students, some aren't my students. Be like, hey, I'm going to go to Europe or I'm going to Asia, or I'm going to South America with my family. What do I need to know about traveling? And I'll help them with their stuff to get them ready to go. And I know, and they come because they watch those videos when they were kids. And I'm like, hey, or my dad sent me these videos. Could you give us some advice? I'm like, sure. It's kind of nice because it's like I feel like I've been trying to help people, and when people come and say hi, it's like I knew I helped somebody, and I got to be a little part of their trip. And that's one thing. It's like it's funny because like people will take pictures of me while I'm filming, and then they'll Instagram it to me. They're like, I
yeah,
saw you today while you were filming, but I thought it'd be weird if I came up and said hi. I'm like, it's weirder that you took the picture and sent it to me. Just come up and say hi. So
yeah,
if
yeah.
you're listening to the podcast, like if you see me filming, even if I'm filming, come up and say hi. I always love to say hi to fellow travelers when they're out there because it's like one of those fun things. Because I've met some really great people over there, the travels and stuff, and people have come up and said hi. So
Some of your stories, you've told it in a very short video, but we want to dive maybe deep into it. And as I said already, we want people to comment and say, hey, I remember doing something like this, and give us ideas to talk about different topics. And I asked you the question about, okay, this is what it was like when you first started off. What's the major difference? And you've sort of touched on it now where maybe perhaps it's easier to do stuff now, but what's the major difference you think now when you're filming and processing your stuff compared to what it was back 17 years ago in 2000, 2008, 9, 10?
I don't have as many people walking behind the camera, looking at the camera, going, "What is this person doing? What is this person doing?" Like people don't look as confused when they see me filming, versus like today they're like, "Oh, it's just another, Instagram or YouTube or whatever." Like it's a normal thing, so there's not as much of that. Um, Not as many people like okay, so back in the day when I'd film until about 5 or 6 years ago, if I was filming at a busy place, there'd always be somebody in the background like jumping up and waving, or like there's one of our Ireland videos, the dude literally drops his pants and shows his butt in the
Oh,
background. And,
yeah.
like there's all like people do things like people don't do that as much now. If they do, it's usually like a little kid will like wave or something. There's one I did love. There's one I was filming in Prague, and this couple, because I was, when you're filming, you can still here and I'm like, oh, it's Wolters World. And so I heard that. So I like waved hi, and I was just kept filming, whatever. And then they like got behind me. That's why I could see them, but like a little bit farther behind. And they just start like passionately making out. We're like talking for like 15
Oh,
minutes of filming. Like they're just like going at it. Obviously, we're doing it to be in the video for that. So I let them be in there for a bit. I'm like, I told my editor, so I'm like, hey, let's put a little bit more B-roll in this one because they're getting a little too risque. But it was funny because like they would literally were like, we're gonna go
well,
to town on each other.
those times early on, they probably looked at probably thinking you're probably doing something for television or something really. Because if you were really going at it, they didn't know because it wasn't common. Everyone does it now, so no one even batters an eyelid. But back then, people thinking, I'm probably going to be on TV here. Why not passionately make out for 15 minutes or whatnot and stuff? So I think that's maybe the major difference where it's just so even young kids are doing it now where they put the cameras out or they put the phone out. Obviously, that's another topic, but kids who've got cameras now or iPads and they're sort of just putting things out and they're filming stuff. So that's you're absolutely right. It's a huge difference. But when you're out there doing your stuff now, people walking by, the major thing is obviously the technology has improved. It's allowed us to film. It's allowed us to do this podcast. Really, when you think about even 5, 6 years ago, wouldn't have been possible. May have been, but we may not even thought about it. Could we do a video podcast?
When Joss and I were thinking podcast, we were thinking like the two of us at a desk, maybe two cameras, like looking at us and doing that way, And even when when everyone went on Zoom in 2000 or 2020, you still didn't have very good back and forth. Now like my download and upload rates now, like we can actually get HD quality stuff. You can do things with it. Whereas before it's like, watching TV, on antennas like 50 years ago, it was coming through. And so you had like the tech has been so great for it, and that's what's nice about it. We can have that. But also like I'm kind of pumped because like, I'm hoping we can meet up in England when I get over there so we can maybe film a little something or whatever. I mean, that's what's cool about it. It's become a lot more easy to do that for with the technology, but also people are more willing to do it. Like for a long time, like I told people for years, they're like, oh, I should make. I'm like, go make videos. You got a phone, make videos. Just make videos. Aren't you worried it's gonna be more competition for you? I'm like, look, the more perspective we have there out of the world, the better. Yeah. And so I do that, and I didn't just do that for like the travel stuff. I would talk. I mean, this is before COVID. I was telling my colleagues at the university, I'm like, hey, film your class, like film your content for your classes because students get sick or you're going to be sick or something will happen that you don't have a class, you have it there, they can study from it. Because I learned that like this is like 2005 or 6 when I first started making videos, and I'm like, I saw how much it helped my students. I'm like, this is something that can really help because so many students are scared to ask questions. Like they literally, I mean, I'll do an exam review for like 400 students. Like, any questions? Nobody, like nothing. But then once I'm like, okay, you can leave, all of a sudden there's like 40 students waiting in line to ask that question because they didn't want to ask in front of anybody else. You put that stuff out there, it can help them so much. And that's one of those things, like with the videos I make for the travel stuff, it's like, if I can answer those questions, I wish I would have known. Like I have a new series coming out. What I wish I would have known before I went to a country. Because we have one like what to know before you go. Like, here's the money, here's the visas. But like, hey, no, what are things that me personally, from my experience in that country, I wish I would have known beforehand, which would have made it better. And that's those things, putting those things out there for people. So when they go, they're not worried about the scams. They're not worried about missing out. They're not worried about like, am I eating the right stuff or insulting the locals? I can go in, I got that background information. I can come in and just enjoy the culture that's there, the sites that are there, and that's one of the best things about it. It's like I feel like we're doing that and I want to keep doing that.
We're going to wrap up because we want to keep it sort of around about the 30 minutes mark, but you let us know in the comments actually if you want it longer. We could do it longer, but we thought 30 minutes will be around about the mark. We can keep it. But I used the word trust before, and you've been doing this, and the reason why people watch it on a weekly basis, yearly basis, is because they can trust you. And you mentioned something about not taking that sponsorship, because I asked you as well about 3-4 years ago. You could have done so much. I mean, you could have been one of the biggest if you, in terms of people coming to you commercial wise. You could have been, and you used the word, you don't want your videos to be a commercial show where they're trusting you because you're authentic and it's coming and it's your opinion, not someone who's paid you to do it. Well, why was that also really important for you?
Well, back then, because there were so few honest stuff out there. And also, I mean, I will say now, sponsors are better now about letting content creators use their own voice because now there's there's so many of them out there. Like, oh, if we don't like yours, we go to somebody else, we go to somebody else. So there is that. But back then, I mean, when I was first coming out, I mean, they'd want like tons of stuff. They didn't want to pay you hardly anything, and then they're like, and then you're going to be our little, do whatever we want for 6 months. I'm like, no. Even if I want to be 100% honest, if a hotel gives me a free room, I do feel kind of bad if I'm bashing on them. That's why, like, we have the Honest Travel Networks, my wife's channel, and we put our hotel reviews there. And those are and I paid for all those hotels. We did not get any of those hotels for free. I spent the $400 to stay here for 2 nights, or I spent, whatever. And then it's my money, my experience. Like, this is what I booked with. Like, we did one at the Hampton Inn in Times Square. I mean, it was a horrible experience. I paid for it. I paid for this horrible experience, so I'm going to share my horrible experience, and that makes it more realistic. And so there's other ways you can make money and things, but like, that was one of those things I didn't want to get sponsored just to get sponsored. So no, for me, it's like I don't have a problem with sponsorships if they're like, if it's brands that we use. We do things like, we've done stuff with Rosetta Stone, and because I like their language program. We've done stuff with Ford. I mean, I drive a Ford, so I'm like, hey, I drive a Ford, I can talk about Ford. So that's one of those things. It's like, goes in with that trust. When I see influencers that are talking about like, oh, this is my favorite cereal ever. Everywhere I travel, I take this $20 box of cereal. I'm like, no, you don't. That goes to the whole like the line influencer stuff. Like, I never wanted to be that. And so that's where it's like, hey, I want to be honest about it. And most brands, I mean, there's one brand, like, well, they reached out to me and I use their product. I love their product. I still have like 5 of them. I'm like, they're like, oh, we'll send you. I'm like, I already have 5. Like, I don't need. And they're like, okay, but basically what they wanted was they're like, make your video, make your script. We'll tell you what to change. To film it, they'll tell you what to change. And you're going to do, and you're going to, I'm like, oh, you want an ad? Like, yeah. It's like, I'm like, and I didn't have anything bad to say about their product. I'm like, yeah, but I want to have some freedom to say these things, because if it's just like me rehearsing the script on there, that's not really going to build trust with my audience. It doesn't work the same way. And so I felt really bad because I still use their products, but I was like,
well, the thing is that you want it to align with what you're doing, and that's the amazing thing for the last 16, 17 years. And I'm sure we're going to have more brands reach out to us, but they would have to, and again, people listening again, it will have to align to what we're doing as well. The message that we're putting out has to be authentic, and that's the beauty of this business now. It's gone to the point where it's having that integrity. And also, as you just said, that you don't want someone to be flaunting something and they don't really actually believe in it.
People ask me for advice on travel destinations I haven't been to. I literally tell them, I've never been there, so I don't have personal knowledge. I can't tell you. Even if I've read a lot of stuff, I've done a lot of research, I have not been there, so I cannot tell you. Like, oh, what about Antarctica? Oh, I've done the research, but I'm not. Go watch someone else's videos. Go. I mean, because I wouldn't feel right giving people advice on places that I haven't been.
Different ideas are going to come along. Again, leave us comments. We're going to try and do many different things. And your channel already's got a Patreon and a membership as well. So we're looking to grow further, and we've got so many different ideas.
And this is our first one. Like, this is just us getting together, because we like Shebs and I have done podcasts like on his and other things. We've done videos together, but really like a focus on a Wolters World travel focus kind of thing with the podcast. This is the first one, so they will get better. Because our ideas for the podcast going forward is the podcast I've been on, it's just like, it's kind of like this one, like, hey, tell me your background. But I want us to go into, so like, since you'll already know Shebs and I, we can go right into the topic. We're going to talk about, things like over tourism. We're going to talk about, hey, what's going on with those? Hey, you got to give them your social media links, and we're going to dive right into it, as opposed to like the fluff stuff first. We're going to give you travel news and like have a debate and talk about these things, because I think that's what people would want to have, is like a more in-depth talk and discussion about these things, about travel aspects, whether it's over tourism or whatever.
Yeah, and definitely topics that are relevant within the today's news as well. We're going to be looking to dive into those ideas of bringing guests on as well that will help you travel better. So this is going to be the news platform. Call it whatever you want, but this is going to be the platform. And as I've already said, we've already got the audience and they trust us. So you're going to be in good hands with us. So stay for the ride.
You might not always like our opinions, and you might always believe us. We're going to tell you what we feel everyone should know about travel. Make sure you comment below if there's topics you want us to cover. So we're looking into this once a month, twice. We'll see if it gets popped once or twice a month, maybe more. If it goes really well, who knows? Well, you all let us know what you think about our first podcast. Believe me, we'll get more in depth and more better. Thanks to Shebs for hopping on here. He'll be back with us on our next podcast. Give us some ideas on the topics you'd like. I think our next topic, we're going to talk about over tourism and basically bad tourists and what we can do to be better tourists. We're going to talk about some of the common mistakes people are making that they don't realize they're making, but also solid advice that you can use about being a better traveler, so you can not only appreciate the culture you go to, but the culture that you're going to can appreciate you as a tourist as well. So thank you for being on this week. Shebs, anything you'd like to tell anybody at the end?
No, I think you've covered everything, Mark. So thank you very much, and we hope to see you in the next show.
Bye, y'all.